Yeah, this should concern you and this should also worry you because if a leader is not fiscally fit, what does that say about the country? What does that say about its people? For voting people in power, people that have no physical abilities, that can't really even stand by themselves, that's a problem.
A lot of times there is not really a way to determine that someone is physically healthy because they try to mask all of this, they try to cover it up until they get into power. They will begin to use the state resources to take care of themselves, which is very, very unfortunate.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Y&E podcast. Thank you for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like, share, and engage us in the comment section. We're discussing the video that has gone viral of the Nigerian president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, tripping at an event in Turkey, where he met with the president of Turkey. And we're discussing the challenges of being in power at a very um, late stage of one's life. President Tinubu is not the only president that is over 70 years of age around the world. I mean, if you look at his age compared to Paul Biya of Cameroon, you'll be impressed. If you look at other presidents in Africa, you'll be impressed um, on how he's been able to carry himself. Even the president of the USA, President Trump, is up there in age. Is over 70 years of age. So you can't really compare a 60-year-old man with a 70-year-old man. You can't compare them cognitively. You can't compare them physically. So at some point, the body will tell you, hey, it's time for me to relax. It's time for me to shut down. Because, the way you would work a body of a 40-year-old man or a 50-year-old man, it's going to be different from the way you work a body of a 70-year-old man or a man approaching 80 years of age. And it's also interesting that the president, it looks fragile and he's still looking for a second term bid that will end in 2031. So this is something that should be on everybody's radar, especially if you're in Nigeria and you're interested in Nigerian politics. Yeah, this should concern you and this should also worry you because if a leader is not fiscally fit, what does that say about the country? What does that say about its people? For voting people in power, people that have no physical abilities, that can't really even stand by themselves, that's a problem. Buhari was also in the same boat when he was president. Half of his tenure was spent overseas, trying to seek medical help, trying to get well, while the country was left behind in the hand of the cabal. So I think this is something that Nigerian people need to look at and make sure that we're voting people into power, people that have not only mental capacity, but have good physical abilities as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you that we should be voting people into power, people that have a physical, that though, a lot of times there is not really a way to determine that someone is physically healthy because they try to mask all of this, they try to cover it up until they get into power. They will begin to use the state resources to take care of themselves, which is very, very unfortunate. Like you mentioned, Buhari spent a good number of his time in office, at least out of the 8 years in office, Brady probably spent close to 2 years abroad, which is very, very appalling for a president of a country to be out of the country for that long. And all these things only happen in Africa. I have never seen a Trump out of this country. I have never seen Israeli prime minister out of Israel. He only comes to frequent US, yeah, but you don't see him saying that he's coming here to seek for medical help. I would think that maybe Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, he probably don't do it. Macron, I don't think he lives in France. I don't think he stays in France to take care of his country. But in Nigeria, anything goes. Nobody, because we are, have, you know, an industry that is booming right now, is psychophancy, people, would rather be a psychophant than calling things out as they are. And We have people that are enabling these behaviors. They don't call them out. They don't, invoke the constitution. They don't do what the law says about these behaviors. They just encourage it because, you know, someone out there is lining their pockets. He literally just came back from, from Europe, so to speak, as the presidency said. He left. I think he left December 28th or 26th, right after Christmas. And then he only came back the 21st of the January. That is not a way to govern the country. I would think that, as a president of a country, your traveling should be planned in a way that it doesn't interfere with national security. Who knows the hotel he's staying? The hotel could be bugged and all of that stuff. Is the nation's secret or nation's whatever safe with him? That is the problem with that, and people are not saying anything about it. Only for him now. He only got back on the 21st and went back to Turkey again. He said he went there for a state visit. I mean, I think at this time he's just too old, to be traveling all around. I think even the doctors that they say they go to France, they go to London to see, I would really think that it's time they start flying those doctors into the country. He's the president. He has all the power. If he doesn't want people to know about his doctor, he can always mask his identity to pass through the airport. Nobody will know anything about him. His secret will be safe, but rather, they prefer traveling and junketing everywhere. Like you said, I think he's getting there. He's getting up there in age. He were to be my dad, I probably wouldn't advise him to seek for re-election. But then again, this is Africa. Anything goes. Africa is literally a place where Pobia of 91 is ruling the country. That is appalling. In fact, since after election, nobody has seen Paul Biya. He has gone back to his country, Switzerland, probably be planning, vacation to, to Cameroon time soon. It's really regrettable what is happening in Africa in terms of leadership. I would think, this leader should have a rethink and then just, acting right.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's no longer news that they failed to invest in healthcare in Nigeria. They haven't done enough job in investing in healthcare and making sure that an average Nigerian have access to good healthcare. And it's a problem, especially if you go to the local areas in some part of Nigeria. Almost every area in Nigeria, it's difficult to be able to get the proper medical help that you need. I saw it, I believe, on X that there's no MRI machine in some states in Nigeria. So if you are needing to get an MRI done, you have to travel to a federal hospital in Lagos or in a bigger city to be able to access MRI machines. And we have governors, we have people in power that are interested in, commissioning Elephant Project, mobilizing for Elephant Project, and not really doing project that will impact the lives of the people directly. It's a shameful thing. I mean, how much does it cost to get a MRI machine? If the hospitals in some states don't have MRI machine, how would the doctors that they're training have access to be able to use this equipment to help people get better? If those equipment are not available, how are they training their doctors? It's really sad. It's really sad. And you can't blame them. They know that they haven't done a good job of putting a lot of resources into the healthcare system. One thing that is common in Nigeria now, if you're a licensed doctor and you're tired of the situation in Nigeria, you relocate somewhere else where they value your work and they value your worth, and they'll pay you better, and you'll be able to move your family abroad. Leaders need to do better. They definitely need to invest more in healthcare. Going back to President Tinubu, do you think he's going to pull a pobia on the Nigerian people when the time comes for campaign? Or do you think he's going to be out there in all the 36 states campaigning for votes in 2027?
I think it's too early to say. Right now, his political party, they have almost 31 or 33 states, in their political party. So maybe that's one of his strategy, to use those governors to stump for him. Maybe he's just, traveling to go see his doctor in preparation for the campaign trail, you know, to campaign for the 2027 election. I think he will be there campaigning for himself. I think he will be there. Just that he will pull what he pulled in 2023. Right after he won the election, he jet out of the country, and he wasn't seen on. He didn't come back until like after 1 month or 2 months. He went there, recouped. In fact, he put his this thing, his administration, his nomination, and everything. His transition was planned abroad. So I would think he will be out there campaigning for himself. Yeah. Is really unfortunate, and to even think that in 2026 they budgeted a $1.6 billion for the hospital in Aso Rock. I honestly do not think that anybody uses that hospital. So what is the point of having a hospital? One, two. What is the point of Genius budgeting for that hospital? I don't think even the staff of Aso Rock use that hospital. These are some of the ways we are wasting, funds. And then if I'm in a position to advise Tinubu, I would definitely tell him to be flying his doctor into the country. He's the president. He can mask the identity of the doctor. The doctor can just come in under a different name, under a different identity, come into the Aso Rock, check him out, and then go. But his continual traveling is costing the country money, and it's not really good for him, because he's no longer young. Despite the fact that he's traveling with plane, I think he gets tired and all of that stuff. So he's really stressing himself out, and I don't really think he's okay for him. Well, what do I know? I'm just an average Joe. So let us know what you think about Tinubu's continuous travel, how the whole thing is affecting the country. The country is lacking leadership. The country is losing money every time he travel. That's a lot of money that the country is forking out, to foot his bills. So let us know what you think, and we'll be happy to engage with you in the comment section.